Leah, the founder of Broadstairs Consulting. We're a board advisory and mediation practice helping people thrive and flourish in crisis situations. Believing crisis isn't an if, it's a when. We want to help people disagree well and move forwards in challenging times. While we are unafraid of crisis, it's rare for one to be resolved in a single day. However long the day or night that gave rise to the crisis in the first place, there's always something we can learn. That's the genesis of The Longest Day. Our guests have overcome a litany of crises. Many have worked with us in some capacity in the past. All of them have stories worth hearing. We trust them to make this worth your while. We hope it helps you trust us. Today, we welcome Sophia Ukor, founder and CEO of Violet Simon, a media company amplifying the voices and experiences of women from all walks of life through authentic storytelling. Violet Simon aims to improve equitable representation and equality, to entertain, inspire others, and generate calls to action on key women's issues. As Sophia highlights, given that only 0.5% of recorded history is about women's stories, for change to happen, and for a better society for women and young girls, we must amplify the voices and experiences of all women. Sophia is passionate about creativity, storytelling, feminism, women's rights, pushing representation, equity and equality, as well as celebrating and amplifying the stories of diverse women. She holds degrees in law and English language and literature, and gained legal, PR and business experience in Lagos and London prior to establishing Violet Simon. She is a volunteer delegate for the UN Women UK Commission on the Status of Women. Please note that this episode contains content that may be alarming to some listeners, as there will be mentions of death and suicide, so discretion is advised. Sophia, we are so grateful that you are willing to come onto the podcast and tell us your story. Welcome to The Longest Day.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. I wonder if you might like to describe your longest day.
Almost like you were expected to be this automatic person, this robot that doesn't, have issues, and then that shame, comes around. But what I have learned with therapy has been very helpful in embracing that this is me, this is my story, and it's going to help a lot of people. And I know that by sharing that as well, it has also helped people. So I would say it was the day that the first day I actually said, I need help mentally. And it's crazy, funny, because when you think about it, I would not have survived. Like, I probably would have been dead if I didn't get help, because the pain was too much. And I don't know how to explain it. There's the physical pain that you have. And in that moment, it's like I would do anything to feel physical pain than feel mental and emotional pain. It's not something you wish on anybody. It's excruciatingly painful. It's indescribable. I don't know how to put words into it, but that was what I was dealing with, to the point that I was not ready. I had a loving husband, incredible husband. But I just didn't know that I could stay. And for me, I was going to be doing him a favor anyway, by, just going. And it was just too much. It was just too much. And I remember the thought I thought to my head was, maybe when I take my life, I would finally find peace somewhere, wherever that is, whether that's in the grave or whether there's an afterlife, or I don't know, whatever. But I would find peace. It was like there would be peace somehow. And that was what I was looking for, because it was too much. And I remember going to my GP and telling the GP, I said, I need to be mentally assessed. Someone needs to assess me. Someone needs to do a test on me right now. I don't know what's going on. I read a lot online. I was thinking, maybe I had bipolar, maybe I had, GAD, general anxiety disorder. I wasn't sure. I was just self-diagnosing, but I just knew that something was up, and this was not normal. And I needed to get assessed. I needed to get help. And so I remember I told this man, please, I need help. Can you, and then he refers me to, he says, well, you don't look like someone who's mentally ill. You just look like someone who probably has a lot of anxiety and but you don't seem like someone who is mentally ill. Just as if being mentally ill is written on the forehead, And it was and I'm looking like, well, but I do need to be assessed. Don't you do assessments? And he says, no, they don't do assessments. They have to have a professional that does it. Like, well, can you get someone to do this? Like, I really need that help right away. And then he gave me printed out some papers, and like, I can go join some, community service for like, what they call it, the group therapy thing. And I'm like, well, I don't think I need a group therapy. I think I need one-on-one, help, not group therapy. And like, that's what you can have. And so I think after we went like back and forth for a few times, he then gave me the number of a counselor, basically, like a therapist who does more of counseling, and said that, well, this is obviously not going to be covered by NHS, so it's more affordable, and I could, call her, that he gave me her mobile number. And so I said, thank you. And then I left immediately. So I remember I was standing in front of my GP practice, and I picked the phone and I called her. And the moment she picked, I broke down into tears. I was just crying uncontrollably. I couldn't stop. I just couldn't stop. I was just crying and crying and crying. And this woman was like, I'm not around now, because it was in the evening, and she's like, can you try to hang on till tomorrow morning? I'll see you first thing in the morning by 9 a.m. And I said, okay. I was like, please, can you just try to whatever it is you're thinking, just one more day. Give me one more day. 9 a.m. I'll see you. And I'm sure the woman moved things around, or probably just, and I said, okay. And then I called my husband, and he was at work, and sometimes we just randomly call each other, or I just want to hear your voice, or, things like that. And well, just something different. And it's happened on a few occasions when he's able, I don't know, but I guess it's how someone. And I picked the phone and I just said, hi, how are you? And he said, he's fine. I'm like, oh, then he was like, what's up? I'm like, I just want to hear your voice. And then he paused. He said, you just want to hear my voice? I said, yeah, I call you randomly when I want to hear your voice. He's like, yeah. And then he now had this deep sigh, like, and then he says, baby, whatever you're thinking of doing, please wait for me. I'm coming home now. And if he didn't say that, he would have come home to a dead wife.
These types of experiences don't come out of nowhere. They tend to be cumulative over a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
What was it that led you to the point you were at on your longest stay?
So I was diagnosed after, the whole story. I took my health into my hands, and I went to actually go see a psychiatrist. I had to go private as well, just because the wait was long and it just wasn't going to benefit me. And we were lucky because we do have insurance. So it's like, you know what, let's do this. And the first day that I met with this psychiatrist, his eyes were red. And you could tell he was trying to pull himself together, to be professional. And then my husband was there, but not with me when in the room, but after. With borderline personality disorder and chronic PTSD, which is what I was diagnosed with, the PTSD was so bad. It's kind of like the kind that you have, like soldiers have, where they wake up in the middle of the night and they're not themselves, so they're just talking and doing things. So there were several times I woke up in the night beating my husband, like punching him and shouting, leave me alone, and not like. And then he would just be like, it's me, until I finally come back and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I start crying, several times at the time I wanted to jump out the door because I was, just some of all those things. You're not there. You're there, but you're not there. It was just a culmination of everything that I had been through, and being raped several times. I lost count, and blocking those experiences, So there were times like when I started therapy, I would literally automatically remember something that happened, and it would just make me shake, because this is a thought or an experience that I blocked, and I'm like, this never happened. I'm never going to happen. But when you begin to unravel and take the Band-Aid off, you need to deal with that pain. And, we're talking about even business, I've been doing entrepreneurship for 14, 15 years, right? And I'm very ambitious and dogged. I don't know. I think I got that from my parents, but yeah, I am. And I think it's just something about proving something. And well, not now anymore anyway, but then. And so I was juggling university and running 2 companies, and making sure that my grades were okay, making sure that that I was making money as well with the business. And I was lucky to have like an investor who was like a big brother who pumped in millions into the business. And we did things. We had stores, because my first business was a fashion company, and then a co-founder the PR company with friends of mine at the time, and then an interior design company. So it was just kind of like doing all of that. And while I was just running that and doing that, there was never like a time I could stop. I wasn't taking care of myself, and I was always letting myself get cheated. I was letting people take advantage of me, and I wasn't in that good place. So I couldn't lead, and instead it ended up me being used, or, making mistakes, or maybe hurting people with the way I'd flare up or react to things, and just wondering what the hell is wrong with you, and always feeling that I deserved bad. I deserved wrong people. I deserved bad things to happen to me. And that was it. I knew that I had to take a break and stop and kind of reassess what exactly it is I was doing and what it is I wanted to do, and go back to the basics of what really made me tick, what I thought was that core thing about me that I knew that I wanted to do. But when I just told him, he smiled actually and laughed, and he said, I know. I knew this was going to happen. I'm like, okay, you knew, as in, did you? So like, it's 2 things. It's either you knew because maybe you foresaw it maybe from certain things, or you just didn't believe in me enough to think, what exactly. And then he told me a story about how when he was young and he was my age, that exact thing happened, and somebody took a chance in him. And he said he was always going to take a chance on somebody. And he said he did not give me all the money and put in money into the business just for the fun of it. I had an abortion. He was the one who I called to help me to, because he didn't want me to do it. But again, like I said, this is someone who was like a big brother. I'm the firstborn, so I didn't have anyone looking after me. I didn't have anyone looking out for me. And he was the first person I met, and I knew that he was genuinely looking out for me without wanting anything in return. And it was just something about that, and so, yeah, and that was it. And then he just said I didn't have to pay him back. All I needed to do was just go be successful. And that was it. And then, a few months after, I was in the UK. And yeah, and he came to the UK some years ago. We toured, he met my husband then. And again, he's just amazing. And it's just like seeing that and looking at where I am now and seeing what I do with Violet Simon and how I go about Violet Simon, and, the way I go about it, how I treat myself, how I treat other people, getting that help mentally, taking that first step to say, and to insist with my GP to say, look, you need to get me somebody right now. I need help. And doing the work and being very, I did the work. I read books. I needed it. So even though I was constantly suicidal, a part of me still wanted to leave. I wanted to leave because there was a man who loved me unconditionally, and he was just there. I wanted to leave because I felt I had been through too much shit. I need to enjoy, I need to enjoy something. And, and that was that. So I kind of found my reason to leave. When I had my son, who's 4 this year, it was another reason to leave. When I had my miscarriage last year and I became suicidal, again, that was the first time in a long time that had happened, took me down a rabbit hole. But then seeing my husband and my son as well, made me say I had something to leave, and not beat myself up for feeling suicidal, because it was like radical acceptance. This is what happened. And now, with a good therapist, putting strategies in place, I know my markers. I know when I'm getting upset. I know what I need to do to not get me to that point where I would be. And I think it's just been that. And it was just from taking that first step of saying, help, you really, I need help. And that's it. That was it.
That's incredible. What was it that kept you going on your self-discovery, but also self-acceptance journey?
My husband. I don't know. They always say that you need to have someone in your corner. My parents are amazing people. I love them to bits. But I didn't have that with them. But I had that with him. He showed me what unconditional love meant. Before that, I literally had no idea what that was all about. I remember I told him before we started dating, I said, I'm a lot of baggage. You cannot handle me. You need to just save yourself the trouble. Like, save yourself, please. And he said, no, it's okay. I can handle it. I'm like, you can? You're like, I can handle it. I'm the one saying I can. And it's funny because we've been together for about 8-9 years now. And I did say, there was one time we were talking and I did say to him, because I was very unpredictable. I had this fight or flight. So once it's not like, okay, you're going to be seeing the back of me. You won't even see the back. I'm gone. Like Flash, the DC comic guy. DC Comics, but I'm just gone. And I told him that, I had never had a steady relationship. My longest relationship was 4 months. Shortest was 2 weeks. That's literally how I was. And I was always dating somebody, always. I think the period I did meet him, though, I made a decision that I was going to go off man for 2 years. So I was just like, I'm not going to date anybody. So I would actually go out buy myself, a meal and eat out and just enjoy being alone, which is something that I never thought I could do. And that it was in that state that I met him as well on a blind date. And, but seeing somebody who, I don't know how to explain it, but everyone who's met my husband says the same thing. It's like, there is just something about him that you cannot put your finger on. And I'm like, I don't know. But I feel like the day you were made, maybe like, it was like, this was my person. And it doesn't mean that we did not have issues. We've been together for 8-9 years. It's only the last 4 years that have been like great. I would not say sweet, but, we've had our hurdles and all that. But even in spite of that, it was seeing someone who
well, he shows up and he's consistent.
Yes. He was talking the talk, walking the walk, and always, there were nights where he wasn't sleeping because he had to look at me to be sure that I was not going to get up from bed and go take something to kill myself. It was that. If I didn't have that, and even on days where it was so bad, I would remember, through therapy as well. I see this man and I just remember, what we've been through, what he's put, and I'm just like, okay, this is my reason to leave. And leaning into that because it was something I was scared of doing. Because I always said to my therapist and to myself, like, what if he wasn't there? I didn't want to be dependent. I didn't want that my existence was dependent on him. So that when he goes, then that's it, I'm gone. I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to be self-sufficient enough to stand on my own. That with or without him, I would be fine. And that actually is the case with me now. But it was at that initial stage, because I'd never had that in my entire life, leaning into that, falling on that completely and saying, I'm just going to rest on you and let you help me. And then evolving together to the point where now I know that, it's hopefully, we don't want any bad thing to happen to our partners, but it's like, it would be rough, it would be bad, but I would know and I would remember this is what he would want me to do. It's kind of like that, things like that.
Retraining your mind so that you think differently.
Yes. And that's what I have. That is why I am where I am today. It's because one person actually showed me unconditional love and showed up and keeps showing up for me.
Are you feeling stuck? Has conflict got you down? Have you considered mediation? Mediation is a confidential and flexible way to resolve conflicts. 86% of all mediations end in a solution, saving time, money, and stress for all involved. Thanet Mediation Centre, a Broadstairs consulting initiative, offers mediation services to individuals and organisations in Thanet, Kent, and further afield. For more information or advice, email us at info@broadstairsconsulting.com. We are here to help you move forwards.
It strikes me that there's a huge amount of your journey that in the way that it's happened has given you this heart to elevate the stories of other women. Yeah. Can you tell us how Violet Simon came to be?
Violet Simon is going to be 8 years this year, but when it started, from, I had run 3 companies before then, right? And had left and I was starting all over again. And now I was scared shitless because I really did not know, what I was going to do, how I was going to make mistakes. And I was in a different country. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was in the UK, and let's admit it, the UK is less friendly and conducive for entrepreneurs, especially if you did not grow up in this country. It's hard, the culture, the community you experience from, back maybe in Nigeria or even in America, you don't experience that here. When I met my husband and on our first date, I was talking about my ambition and the things I wanted to do. And just went on and on and talking about, career, whatever it is. And, and he's an IT, he has an IT background. And so, it was that fusion of how we're going to do this and how we're going to do that. Between myself and him, we've probably created several companies that we've not actually launched. And very nice things. I mean, I love fashion. I love it. A friend of mine.
If you've never been to one of Sophia's events, it's basically like her own catwalk.
So, yeah, I mean, but it is that, and I'm like, that's the farthest I'm gonna go, because I know what goes into making that, and I'm like, I don't want that headache. And and with Violet Simon, I would say, people used to tell me that I should focus a lot more on a niche, because when you look at it, it's very broad. Women from all walks of life, not Black women, not Asian women, not women over 40, just women from all walks of life. And it's kind of like, it's a hard sell, right? No investment, it's like, what is that thing? But we have managed to do it and make people see that it's possible. Because I said, I'm not interested in, it's good to have a niche to say it's just going to be for maybe pregnant women or moms or, or women over 40 or, whatever niche it has to be, Black women or Asian women. At the point I actually wanted to, but it just didn't feel original to me because that has never been it for me. For me, it had always been, I want to build something. Just like, because, I mean, when you look at it, if I was white, for example, no one was going to be telling me, create a niche, right? So why the hell is everyone telling me to create a niche? I don't want to create a niche. I want women from all walks of life to feel seen and represented. I want women coming to this platform, coming to our events, reading our books, reading the women who we feature, thinking about themselves and thinking, I feel seen, no matter what your skin color is, no matter what your sexuality is, no matter whatever that is, it's you come in and you feel seen. Because when you look at the mainstream media, that's what happens. But what happens also is we do not have a lot of representation. So women's stories get very underrepresented. And then we have certain areas and ethnicities and communities that also get very underrepresented. And we are aware of that in Violet Simon. So we make a very intentional effort to make sure that we are amplifying women from all walks of life, but we're also ensuring that those women who would normally not be seen are also visible enough to everyone. And I think that that's so powerful, and I stuck by that, and I think I do not regret it now because now we're getting good reviews. So I guess I guess we did something good.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things you said, was about the way that you have changed over time, and the way that your mental health experience has impacted you as an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to somebody who hasn't done that self-exploration yet, but is a budding entrepreneur and doesn't know what's around the corner?
Don't say I have to start the work before doing my business. It's because people, look, you're going to be waiting a long time to figure it out. And I think one of the things that used to worry me a lot then was I felt like I did not have my things figured out. I was once in a place where I didn't know why. I don't know what I want. I don't know where I need to be. Everything just felt so forced and frustrating. And I'm like, what is this? So because I was in that state, what I did was I let go of every single thing and just stepped back and took care of myself. But if you're someone who seems to have a passion in a certain way, or you think you do and you want to keep moving, do it. But be very wise about it and strategic, because at the end of the day, every business, it's a business you're running. So you need to be strategic. Just because, you need to believe in what you're doing. And if you've not found that thing, if you think you're still trying to figure out what exactly it is you're doing, do it, but maybe go slower. Try to see if you have a mentor, or it's like, a therapist who can help you. And the therapist is not your business coach, but what they do with you mentally is what would help you align whatever it is you're doing. In 2018, the vision of Violet Simon wasn't exactly clear to me, but I was very hot then, and I had done events, I had launched membership clubs, I was on a high, I was doing it, and so even though I was talking about all this, I knew that somewhere there was that passion. And when I look back at maybe some videos I did then and talking about the mission of Violet Simon, it's so similar to what it is now, because there was that one thing was constant about how I was passionate about women. And how I was passionate about, telling stories of women. But then how do you go about it, and what can you do to bring that authenticity out? That was the thing. There was a missing element I knew was missing, but I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know how to go about it. But I just kept going, and I kept working on myself while I was doing that. But with wisdom as well, you know what to do, how to try to do what you have to do. Think about the cost as well. Okay, is this expedient for my business? Are there ways I can hack this? I can create something, I can do this project without having to spend so much money. Where can I curry favor from? Think like a hustler, and that shouldn't even stop. Keep doing the work. Don't feel, rubbish. And be honest with yourself. Take a break when you feel like it's getting too much, you don't know what to do. And accept the days that you actually have no idea what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know whether you're following in this. You have no absolute clue, and just say, yes. We really don't have any clue. We're like 3 blind mice now, so we're going to see how it goes. And be very honest with yourself about that. And I would also say have somebody, trustworthy if you can. I know it's not it's a luxury that most people don't have. But if you have a good therapist as well, that's where that comes in, and then you can talk about these things. And because what my therapist did for me was, she went above and beyond just doing BPD, or chronic PTSD. It was the things we talked about were things that we just encapsulated every area of my life. And that helped me as well, and I was able to become a better person in terms of my leadership and how I was going about things. And the more I was working on myself, the more I was evolving, the more I was seeing the changes, the more I became very, very adamant. And that's why then people would tell me opinions and I would wobble a bit, because it's like, I'm not really sure what I'm doing. But then today, I was able to, even when people were saying, have a niche. I'm like, I have a niche, it's women. So go figure, leave that alone. I think that's what I would advise anybody in entrepreneur. Do the work, because you need to do the work for yourself. Entrepreneurship is hard. They say 80% of entrepreneurs have mental health issues because it is hard due to the pressure from being an entrepreneur. So
it brings things to the surface that you don't necessarily know about.
Exactly. And this is just even like for people who may not even have like an underlying mental illness, like the average Joe on the road, this is like, that statistics is startling. So imagine not getting that help and then just going about your business. Is why you notice that sometimes you see a lot of startup companies are very toxic. And why is it toxic? Because people are not taking care of themselves. And then they're not pouring that toxicity into other people's lives and building very, environments that are not conducive for a business to thrive or for people to thrive. And then it crumbles after a while. And then you wonder why, because you're not doing that work.
Yeah, well, Broadstairs Consulting is in the market for those organizations with difficult cultures that want to thrive and flourish. And as much as we love hearing about other people's passions, we also have a passion of our own, which is food. And what we would love to know is, if you had to live a difficult day again, what food would you choose to fuel it?
Pasta.
Even a moment's thought there.
I'm telling you, pasta. I love pasta, and anytime, anyway, just call me in. Pasta, yes. Pasta and appetizer, the appetizer drink. Yeah, I've got a carton, so I'm just gonna.
We love a girl who knows what she wants.
Yeah.
Wow, Sophia, thank you so much for your vulnerability. For your honesty, your integrity in sharing your story with us. And there is so much to talk about when I turn this recording off. But thank you for speaking so freely on The Longest Day.
Of course, and thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I think it was quite therapeutic for me too, so thank you.
You've been listening to a Broadstairs Consulting Limited podcast. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Tune in soon to hear the next instalment of The Longest Day. Copyright 2023. Production copyright Broadstairs Consulting Limited. All rights reserved.